What's up everyone? So by now, if you have not seen the full trailer for Prey, you can find it on YouTube very easily. I covered the trailer frame by frame in my last video, but now there's some news articles that bring up some more details about the film. It's going to cover the decision to make it a rated R film, the Comanche language in the movie, some of the gadgets or weapons in the movie, and also their choices to making it around Native Americans. The first topic is about the Comanche language we heard within the trailer. The majority of the dialogue was spoken in English, and some fans were hoping we can hear Comanche spoken more often. And according to an article on comicbook.com, director Dan Trachtenberg and producer Jane Myers revealed some amazing details about the film. They had previous conversations about making a version of the film entirely in Comanche. This decision would put Prey into the history books. Here's what Jane Myers said. We do have Comanche throughout the film, but when you first choose to watch the film, this will be the first time that the Comanche language, and I'm Comanche by the way, this will be the first time that our language is in a full dub and also subtitled for the whole film. So it's really important to me, and the language components very important because this will also be the first time that a film has been completely dubbed. You get the option of watching it in Comanche on a brand new film. I know that Navajo has done it twice with Star Wars, but Star Wars was 30 years old when that came out. Finding Nemo was 20 years old, but here we are. This movie resets a whole lot of paradigms, and one of them is the language component. She then added this. It's amazing for me to do this kind of movie because I do like action and I've done different types of films, but this is the first one that I think really fully utilizes my full talents. It's great because I have a great knowledge of our history because I've worked with museums. I've also studied different aspects of our culture, but to put all of those in there at once, it is just amazing. Even some of our stories, some of our language stories, all of those nuances is something really new to this franchise, but I think people will just be really impressed. I think it's a great melting. Trachtenberg and Myers also confirmed that originally the film was going to be in Comanche entirely. Now at launch, the film will be available in the Comanche language in both subtitles and dubbed audio tracks. Now onto the topic of making this movie rated R, which was a concern ever since Disney took over the franchise. Back in July of 2021, the producer John Davis said this during an interview with Collider. Well, it all depends how you end up cutting it. It was conceived as an R-rated movie. It could easily end up PG-13. I guess we're going to find out what it has to be or what it is, when it's all cut together. Another article on comicbook.com with Dan Trachtenberg has him saying this. The Disney thing did not affect the movie at all in terms of its content. That's why I'm excited for this trailer to come out. And for people who are worried that, was this going to be PG-13 or was it going to be Disney-made Predator? It was a 20th century movie throughout the entire experience, and then Disney has been awesome in receiving the reins of it and now delivering it out into the world, but there was never any mandate from them. I was terrified of some of the wording we had in the script, and when they read it, I was like, oh no, are they going to freak out over the descriptions of gore and stuff? But no, it is a brutal, intense, very R-rated movie, and I'm excited for that to be dispelled, that Disney's going to do Disney things. So he's pretty much saying that Disney never told them to make it PG-13. They were fully supportive of what Dan was going to do with the film. A lot of fans were assuming that Disney was going to water down the violence in this movie, but it seems that's not the case. Producer John Myers said the film was shot in Canada during the world issue we are still going through today, so they did not have any executive visits to oversee the film's production at the time. Dan Trachtenberg added that may have helped too. He also joked about being a Disney fan, and he thought there might be a way to bring the Predator into a Disney theme park like Frontierland. If he was able to make this movie PG-13, perhaps the Disney executives would allow this to happen. Here's what he said about this topic. I know that there's no way that this can be added to the Disney parks. I mean, I assume there's no way this can end up anywhere in the park. And I thought, oh, if I could find a way to make it PG-13 somehow, maybe it can end up in Frontierland. And it's impossible. I mean, the movie's pretty gnarly. Another article on comicbook.com talks about some gadgets and weapons that are seen in the trailer. Dan Trachtenberg says this: I teased a while ago that I took inspiration from the latest God of War video game, and those two things are in the trailer. One is his shield that you see briefly, and the other is not a Predator gadget, but just the way that Naru wields her axe. She invents something very cool for that tomahawk, and that comes from a mechanic in that video game. I think the shield is something super cool. There's a couple of things that are the same, and even those things function slightly differently. He also talks about the look and design of the Predator in this film by saying this: I think our Predator, in my mind, not only does he exist, 300 years before, but I think in sci-fi movie terms, time moves very slowly. If the way that Star Wars functions, or even Star Trek, it's like 300 years. Ships aren't suddenly so different, but I think this guy's perhaps from a different hemisphere of the planet and a little bit of a different breed, so even his look is a little new. It's familiar, but new, so I'm excited for people, even for die-hard fans, to really see something they hadn't seen before. The actor behind the Predator for this film is Dane DeLiegro. He got the role in a surprising way. Dan explains how this happened. We met him at the initial costume test, and he was who they found just as a reference for that day. And then he came over and he was like, I would do anything to be in this movie. And it turned out he really was one of the only people capable of pulling this off. Dan DeLiegro is around 6 feet 8 inches tall, born in 1988. He's 33 years old right now. He started his career in basketball, but later transitioned to pursuing an acting career in 2020. Another article is from an interview on Collider.com. The first question is about choosing Patrick Eisen as the film's writer. What made him the right person to tell this story? Dan Trachtenberg responds with this: I tracked down Patrick. I originally pitched the story to Fox and they loved the initial take, and then Patrick was a writer that I wanted to work with forever. He's written several things that have just not been produced. One is a historical piece about Nazi hunters in the 70s, and the other is this awesome Groundhog Day on a space station science fiction thing that cleverly uses technology and is not very verbal. And so I thought he would be a great fit as I was trying to figure out this movie. We crafted the story together and then continued to send it up the chain to Fox, and they let us write it. Very early on, after just the first couple of drafts to make sure we were even on the right course, we linked up with a woman named Juanita Padopany, who's unfortunately since passed away, but she was Comanche and really helped us figure out the movie. And then, when we needed a producer, we tracked down Jane Myers. When I first spoke with Jane, I realized she had a lot in common with Naru, the lead character of this movie, and we would be lucky to have her as a person, aside from even being a talented producer herself. I couldn't believe she existed. It was just awesome. The next question is what this whole experience was for Jane Myers. This is her response: I was really excited. Everything had shut down with the world issue, and then things started slowly happening again. I had interviewed for all these other producing projects, and then I heard about this one and heard that I could interview with Dan. I completely forgot about everything else. I was like, I want this one. I want the Predator. I like the whole premise of the Comanche. I grew up a little Comanche tomboy, and I probably still am. I really liked it. I like the way that the film is not only wrapped within my culture, but it's wrapped in unpredictability. I hate predictable films, and there are so many things that this film will take you through that are so unpredictable. One of the things is language. We actually have a huge language component, and not just the words that you're going to hear on screen. But when you watch it on Hulu, you'll have the chance to click and watch the whole movie dubbed in Comanche, which is amazing. This has never happened for my tribe before. This has never happened on a brand new film that's coming out. I hope that this film sets the paradigm and changes things for our language and our culture. When it comes to predictable scenes, I can agree here, but my main concern is that I do not want a predictable ending where the predator dies and humans win again. We've seen that enough. Please give us something new, like the predator actually survives. Maybe it could be linked to another predator in another story, or just let it survive to go on to other hunts in the future. Something like it will find that Naru is equally skilled as him. Then the final battle ends in a draw, and he sets off into space to find more worthy prey. This could be something totally new. There's a few stories in the comic books where the predator does survive, and sometimes they go on to appear in other stories. All I'm asking is don't give us the same predictable ending that the last 4 Predator movies gave us. You know, where the predator dies, humans win, and the end. I just want something new. Dan is then asked about the budget the film had since it was streaming on Hulu. Here's what he said. It started out at 20th, and then after the merger, Hulu became the release platform. It was never a situation of, because it's streaming, it has a streaming movie budget. It has a very economical budget. Certainly not as big as the last one, but I think we had all the money we needed to make the movie as grand as it needed to be. This is an epic movie. What was so exciting about the original Predator was that it was a genre mashup of action and horror. This movie, I think, is scarier than they have been for a while, but in my mind, it's a mashup of adventure and suspense. It's a grand, sweeping, epic movie that is being gifted to people to watch on their televisions. Hopefully, there likely will be some potential theatrical experiences for some people to get to. Another question is about the movie taking place 300 years ago and how this predator is the same, but also how it differs from what we've seen before. Here's what Dan tells us. Yes, great question. It was very tricky to find a way to have the predator feel at once 300 years earlier in iteration and in what it has to wield, but also still feel far more advanced than what our characters are used to and have ever dealt with before. That way, it can really feel like this David and Goliath grudge match unfolding. That was challenging. Some things in the trailer are teased, and I'm excited for people to watch some familiar gadgets and some familiar weapons in the arsenal, but also a lot of new things that I think are super cool and that I hope people will enjoy. We've noticed through the trailer the predator seems different. Dan gives us more information about this. For the look of the creature, I really wanted to get out of the bodybuilder/wrestler thing. The first thing to go was the mesh netting that he or it has worn previously. I wanted to have this thing feel much more creature-like and way more visceral. Dan brings up a point about how some fans disliked the visuals in the Star Wars prequels. This was posted on the website fandomwire.com. He says this. He compared Prey with Star Wars prequels, saying that the shiny aesthetics used in the Star Wars prequels was initially disliked by the viewers, but this was changed after the re-evaluation. He also faced the same while working with Prey, as fans want something new yet a familiar vibe has to be maintained. That went through my head a lot making Prey, that everything could feel like Predator as we've always loved it, but also something new for those of us who have loved the creature forever, so we're not just given the same things we're expected to see. Hopefully we've accomplished that. I'm excited for people to see a lot of technically older but spiritually newer things. Another interview is posted on ScreenRant.com. The first question here is how Dan became involved with Prey and how the concept for it came about. Dan says this. Well, I was really fixated on making a movie that could be told with as few words as possible. I was very inspired by movies like Mad Max Fury Road and Gravity, and I wanted to tell a survival story that would be visual and visceral. Somehow, I started honing in on what if there was a science fiction element. I thought that if I'm going to make a movie that is this visual, a story told through action, there had to be an emotional experience to have as well. I thought, if I could make this an underdog story, that could give it this sports movie engine driving it. Then I realized, wow, wouldn't it be great if the experience of watching the movie were similar to the experience the character goes through, who is a protagonist that we've never seen in movies before. That's when we realized we've never had a Native American or really an indigenous culture that has been at the lead of a big movie like this. The Comanche were the fiercest warriors of the time, and I think all indigenous cultures. But the Comanche, even more so, have always been portrayed as the sidekick or the villain of a movie. That's where I honed in on the Comanche and pitched the movie to Fox, and they absolutely loved it. When the time came to actually get it going, we started hunting for a producer. He later met with Jane Myers, and then, lo and behold, found Jane. As soon as we started speaking, I thought, oh, she is Naru. She is the main character of this movie. She had done some projects with Disney in the past, and that's how there was some connection. Jane would then add this response. I must say that Dan is a very smart man. This happened right at the beginning of the world situation. Everything had come to a halt. All of my projects were stopped. I was going and interviewing for other projects, and then I saw this one, and it was really exciting for me because I grew up on the original Predator and played this as a young woman with my fellow cousins. I thought, I don't care what else I do. This is the one that's going to be a remarkable film in my career. I was so excited. I forgot about any other project I had interviewed for. I just wanted this one. Dan goes on to explain his experience with keeping things about the Predator similar but also new in the movie Prey. Here's what he said. I always had in mind the way people responded to the Star Wars prequels and the fact that they were through a war and they were prior. Things were cleaner and newer, which made sense, but that also wasn't the kind of thing that we loved looking at or that felt Star Wars-y at the time. I don't know. Now we're reassessing that. Jane Myers added this final statement. For me, language is really important. This is the first time that the language component is going to be front and center on this film. Not only do you hear Comanche language throughout the English dub, but this is the first time you'll be able to actually click and watch the whole movie in Comanche, not just subtitled. For me, being a descendant, or I guess part of the Lords of the Plains, that's really important to bring back to my nation and to my culture. I think the mask for this Predator might just be the skull of an animal because the material kind of looks like bone. The dreadlocks are also very long and thin. Dan did say this is another breed of Predator, so I'm looking forward to seeing the changes to this Predator in the full movie, but at the same time keeping my expectations low enough to not be disappointed like I was in 2018. Prey will be available to stream through Hulu on August 5th. Alright, that's it. That covers more information about the development process for the movie Prey. I'll be covering more updates about this movie, so to catch up on the latest news, all you have to do is subscribe to my channel. I also cover a lot of lore stories within the Predator universe. I will leave a few links to other videos for you to check out. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Carlos or Acid Glow, and I'll see you on the next hunt.